Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating text called The Scholar Stays Home. We're going to discover why doing absolutely nothing and going absolutely nowhere might actually be your greatest modern advantage. Let's get right into it. So, there's this ancient proverb. A scholar may not leave his home, yet he knows the affairs of the world. It captures a profound truth that, honestly, feels surprisingly tailored to our hyper-connected lives right now. I mean, it really begs the question, right? Do we actually need to go out into the world to understand it? What's wild here is just how closely our everyday reality mirrors this ancient philosophy. Think about it. Today, just sitting at a computer, we can execute massive financial trades, listen to soaring concerts, read basically any book ever written, and even find romance, all without taking a single step outside. The author points out that we don't just know about the world without leaving home, we actively gain from it. It's literally a marvel.
Here's our roadmap for unpacking this philosophy. We'll start with the great travel paradox, then dive into 3 pillars of stillness: knowing without acting, seeing without looking, and accomplishing without doing. And finally, we'll wrap up with the ultimate power of stillness. Section 1. The Great Travel Paradox.
So, we're faced with this brilliant paradox. Common advice always tells us to read thousands of books and travel thousands of miles, the whole gospel of outward action. But Laozi completely flips that on its head. He counters with, the farther one travels, the less one understands. The author argues that while traveling constantly might be fine advice for the general public looking for shortcuts, all that rushing outward actually traps you. If your thoughts are constantly pulled outward, you just get bogged down in exhausting, repetitive routines. You gain absolutely nothing beyond superficial experiences. To really prove the power of inward focus, the source brings up the legendary figure Bodhidharma. This guy famously faced a wall for 9 years. Just think about that extreme level of physical confinement for a second. 9 whole years! But the text shows us that through this deep, intense meditation, he actually entered the realm of the non-material. In the depths of true stillness, the mind can literally traverse the tunnels of time and space, soaring freely to envision limitless futures. That is an experience that busy, externally focused people completely miss out on. Now, a really crucial point here is that Laozi isn't just telling ordinary people to be lazy and stay ignorant. Not at all. He's describing the elevated state of the sage. For the average person, yeah, they have to strive and act just to avoid ignorance. But the sage is someone with awakened spiritual awareness. Because they fundamentally grasp the underlying laws of nature, they don't need to physically run around the globe to figure out how reality works. So the question for us is, how can we cultivate just a little bit of that sage-like awareness instead of constantly running on the hamster wheel? Section 2. Pillar 1. Know without acting. Just think about how natural laws work. When an apple ripens, it's gonna fall. Water naturally flows downhill. And honestly, human nature is just as predictable. When people are full and warm, lustful desires arise. When they're hungry and cold, thoughts of theft emerge. By grasping just one underlying concept, the sage can infer everything else. You don't need to personally go out and verify every single falling apple or every flowing river to know that gravity exists, right? You just know it, without acting. Moving on to Section 3. Pillar 2. See without looking. This is such a striking thought. I see more clearly when I close my eyes. What we physically look at can actually be super deceptive and lead to a lot of confusion. The text reminds us of the old saying that form is emptiness, emptiness is form. The things that seem so tangible to us are fleeting, while the unseen forces are what truly shape our reality. So constantly looking outward can sometimes entirely blind us to the inner truth. I absolutely love the humor the author uses here. They point out that from birth to death, despite all the crazy variations in our individual lives, the human essence just doesn't change. Whether water is perfectly calm or totally tempestuous, it's still water. The author notes that the essential path of human life is as glaringly obvious as, get this, lice on a bald head. It's an inescapable truth. Frantic, active, outward looking only harms the mind when the fundamental reality is literally right there in front of us. Section 4. Pillar 3. Accomplish without doing. Now, the author totally admits that this concept leaves us all scratching our heads a bit. I mean, it sounds kind of absurd at first glance. Can you really expect a harvest in autumn if you haven't bothered to sow seeds in the spring? Can you get a university degree without going to class? Or have a sumptuous meal just suddenly appear on your table without any effort? We are so deeply conditioned to believe that input strictly equals output. Yet, if you really reflect on it, life is full of ironies that completely defy that logic. Intentionally planting flowers often results in them not blooming at all, but accidentally planting willows, they grow into these massive shade trees. The author brings up the famous story of the old man losing his horse, which actually turned out to be a massive blessing in disguise. Deliberate, anxious scheming often just invites misfortune. It really proves there's a kind of unseen divine protection in simply stepping back and letting things unfold naturally. This brilliant metaphor just drives the point home perfectly. Rather than standing by the river envying the fish, it is wiser to go home and weave a net for oneself. Instead of all this restless outward effort, running up and down the riverbank trying to grab fish with your bare hands, true accomplishment actually comes from finding tranquility. It comes from going home, stepping away from the chaos, and cultivating your own internal readiness.
And that brings us to section 5, the power of stillness.
The text concludes by quoting the Buddha to remind us of the transient nature of reality. All conditioned phenomena are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, and shadows. Ultimately, it's suggesting that the external hustle, the endless pursuit of all those outward milestones, is really just a fleeting illusion, like morning dew or a quick flash of lightning. The only real difference between sages and the rest of us is simply their mastery of non-action. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Take a look at your own life. Are you exhausting your body and mind by constantly rushing outward, chasing illusions and envying the fish? Or is it maybe time to sit in stillness, understand the underlying laws of the world, and weave your own net?